the law of sines is a tool for solving triangles. However, it does have some limitations. The law of sines works in all cases where you know two angles on one side. The law of sines also works in all cases where you know two sides and the angle opposite one side. The law of sines does not work in cases where you only know two sides. The law of sines also does not work in cases where you only know two angles. If you are unable to solve a triangle using the law of sines, it may be because you are trying to apply it in a case where it does not work. In these cases, you will need to use the law of cosines instead. Here is a summary. Firstly, consider the case of two angles on one side. For this case, the law of sines can be used. The law of cosines can also be used in this case. Secondly, consider the case of two sides and the angle opposite one side. For this case, the law of sines can be used. The law of cosines can also be used in this case. Thirdly, consider the case where two sides are known. In this case, the law of sines cannot be used. However, the law of cosines can be used in this case. Fourthly, consider the case where two angles are known. In this case, the law of sines cannot be used. However, the law of cosines can be used in this case. The law of sines is based on the relationship between the sides of a triangle and the sines of their opposite angles. Specifically for a triangle with sides A, B, and C, and angles A, B, and C opposite those sides respectively, the law of sines states that A/sin A equals B/sin B equals C/sin C. This relationship allows you to solve for unknown sides or angles if you have enough information. To effectively use the law of sines, it is important to understand when it can be applied and how to handle potential ambiguities. The law of cosines, on the other hand, is useful in situations where you do not have an angle on its opposite side, or when you have three sides and need to find an angle. The law of cosines relates the sides and angles in a triangle, but in a different way than the law of sines. The law of cosines states that c squared equals a squared plus b squared 2 cos c, where a, b, and c are the sides of the triangle and c is the angle opposite side c. This formula can be rearranged to solve for angles as well. Cos c equals a squared plus b squared c squared / dirb. To decide which law to apply, first assess the information given. If you know two angles and a side, or two sides and an angle opposite one of them, the law of sines is usually the more straightforward choice. If you know two sides and the included angle or three sides, the law of cosines is generally required. In summary, the law of sines is a valuable trigonometric tool, but it has limitations. Recognizing these limitations and knowing when to use the law of cosines instead is essential for solving a wide range of triangle problems.